Hello and welcome back to our How To Paint series. Today we're going to be looking at Tyranids, specifically the humble Termagant. I believe this is the backbone to every Tyranid army. I don't really know. I don't play Tyranids, but I do have a couple of them. We are going to be jumping right in with a couple of starting base paints here. Wraithbone being probably our biggest one. This is going to be covering all of the kind of skin. And Nagaroth Knight is going to be the second biggest. It'll be covering all of the kind of armor scale plates. So we're going to go ahead, and this is a brand new paint pot, so it might be a little bit loud, but I'm trying to keep it as muted as possible. And this is a brand new brush as well. I've used it once. It comes with the Citadel paint / model combo thing they sell, which is actually really nice. I really love that they started doing that now. I think it's a great idea to be able to get at a somewhat affordable price. A couple of good models to kind of test out an army or color scheme or whatever, and also to get all of the paints that go along with it. I just wish they kind of expanded on it a little more, right? Like I want it for every single army. Give it to me for the Tau, give it to me for the Orcs. I think Stormcast and Space Marines also have it. I just want it for everything. I don't know if Sisters of Battle have it. I'll have to look into that. I really like the basic Sisters of Battle color scheme. So if that is a thing that exists, I definitely want to pick it up. Just to add more paints to my arsenal, of course. Anyway, we are using our Wraithbone here. Just making sure we get really decent coverage where we can. The good thing about doing our nice thin layers, as always, is that it dries very quickly, so we can go back over it basically as soon as we put it down. It dries very, very quick. And with this being a beginner guide, of course, I want to explain everything as much as I really can. What I mean by thinning your paints or having nice thin layers means just adding a little bit of water to, every time you put paint on the brush or on your palette even. Just make sure you have a little bit of water mixed in. You don't want your paint going on too thick, and without doing like a whole video on it, basically it's very hard to explain in perfect detail what I mean, but once you kind of get a feel for it, and you can kind of see the results of what it looks like to be too thin or too thick with your layers, it gets much easier to kind of explain and kind of showcase yourself. So just kind of play around with how much water you put on your actual brush when you do start out. And if you're someone who's seasoned and knows what they're doing, that's fine. Still, maybe stick around, and maybe you'll learn some new techniques, or you'll just enjoy watching someone paint for a little while, right? I don't know. I want this focused towards beginners. I'm definitely within that range of beginner to immediate and intermediate. I wouldn't consider myself a pro by any means, although my Dreadnought, which I did a video on not too long ago, did end up looking very nice. I would put that kind of closer to the pro category. So maybe check that out if you want a good example of my finer work. And if this guy looks terrible, then ignore it, and hopefully the next one will be better. These are some of the paints that I've never actually touched before, though, especially Nagaroth Knight. I've never actually painted with it, so I am excited to use that a little bit, get a feel for what it looks like. I do like purple. I think it'll be a fun color to use, so I'm very excited to jump into that. And kind of finishing off with our Wraithbone for now, we are going to go ahead and move right into that. Of course, as always, close up our paint pots so they don't dry on us. Perfect. And we'll make sure our brush is nice and clean before we switch over. And again, brand new paint. Hopefully it won't be too loud. I've gotten much better at muting it. My first few videos, every time I opened a paint jar, it just peaked the audio like crazy. But we are going to be getting just a little bit here on our brush and getting it on the palette, getting ready to paint. Actually, this paint looks kind of thin, so we might have to do a couple of layers, but that's fine. Oh, that looks absolutely gorgeous going on. I really like that shade. A little bit sad I've never actually used this prior. I would have done much more with this shade of purple. I have used the contrast paint that this comes with though, the Magos purple. I'm not. I don't know how I feel about Citadel contrasts. Sometimes they work great. Sometimes they just do not work for me at all. So we'll give it a try, but I can't promise that we're gonna have any great results with it. Just to warn you ahead of time. And let's get a little bit more on our brush here. We can kind of finish these back few scales. I am doing this as close to the actual box art as possible, just so you guys kind of have a general idea of what it's meant to look like once we're done. And we can kind of compare and contrast a little bit. But also, and actually I'll showcase it here for you now. It's a whole box set, right? So if you happen to pick this up yourself, you can follow this tutorial along, like exactly. You'll have all the paints. You'll even have this exact same brush. So that's kind of why I'm also following the box art. But I like to do it anyways. Pretty much all my videos, I've done it as close to the Citadel specifically meant way as possible. I feel like it's just kind of good for doing tutorials to kind of keep it basic. At some point though, we will kind of reach into doing our own color schemes with stuff, especially with like armies that I've never done before. I'm really looking at the Tau Combat Patrol. I think that's probably going to be one of my next few purchases, and I think with that we'll kind of do our own little color scheme. I kind of know the memes against like the Tau, right? Like, they're bad, they're space communist, whatever. But man, I've never really looked at their actual army before, and I gotta say, their models are really cool. Like, it just screams Evangelion to me, and I absolutely love that anime, so it's definitely something I want to pick up. And I think doing a couple of specific Evangelion type battle suits would be really fun. Do one for like Shinji, one for Asuka. I don't know. Asuka? I forget her name. I'm drawing a blank. I keep thinking of Ahsoka from Star Wars, but I know that's not it. This purple is layering on very nice, though. I'm very happy with how this is turning out. I'm just wanting to kind of keep things really nice and neat here, so we don't have to go back over that wraith bone. I feel like that'll be a little bit annoying. But overall, it's coming out fairly decent. It's looking like a minimal amount of cleanup for us. And actually, we're kind of speeding along here. We actually might be able to do this in just one video. It might be two, but hopefully just one. I should also mention that the base, I already did it previously just because I had to wait for it to dry. It comes in this box with a technical paint, Armageddon Dust. I prefer the anti-acrylic stuff. I have a whole video about basing. If you're curious about how I got this, it's very simple. It's just straight out of the package. But it's very nice and easy to use, and it looks much more gritty than Citadel's technical paints, so it's something I highly recommend. At least giving it a little look at. It's very cheap. You can find it on Amazon. Nothing wrong with the Citadel stuff though. If that's all you have, and you picked up this box, and that's the only technical paint you have. Fine, perfect. It works great. It's just not my personal favorite, so I use something slightly different. It's the same principle though. It's just much easier to apply it before you put the model on, so that's kind of why I did that first. And unfortunately, it means I couldn't really show it, but just trust me when I say it's very easy. And as we finish up here, we're going to be getting ready to use our next paint, so close this as always. Don't want it drying on us. And before I do that, I just want to point out they give you a whole thing of Corax white. As far as I can tell, there's like specific instructions on the back about how you're supposed to paint everything. The Corax white is just for the teeth. Like a tiny little part of the model, and they give you the whole paint pot for it. Kind of weird, but I'll take it. I don't really use Corax white much anyway, but it's good to have in the stockpile, I guess. We are moving on to our next paint, which is a layer paint. This is Thunderhawk Blue. Also never used this before, so we are full of just brand new paints to use. And this is a little bit thinner than we're kind of used to. That's kind of the point of layers. And we're just going to be doing his hooves, if I can pronounce it correctly maybe. And we're also going to be doing his little claws up front with this as well. Now he is standing on a tactical rock, as a lot of Citadel models are. I do enjoy tactical rocks more than probably most, but with the sand, it's going to be kind of weird to kind of color it. I think we might just do like a Xandri dust on it and leave it like that. We'll see. We will see. And looking at the official picture here on the box behind me, it also looks like this front of the gun is also meant to be this nice blue. And again, it's a very nice color. I have nothing bad to say about it. I think it's an excellent choice. We'll see what it looks like once this entire model's finished, whether that holds up or not, but for the most part, I'm really enjoying this so far. And it also looks like this little plate behind is also meant to be that same shade of blue. So we'll do that. We'll make James Workshop happy, and we'll do what he wants. And it's a little bit messy, but that's fine. We can always clean up afterwards. Perfect. Yeah, just real quick, I'll go right back over the hooves as well, just to make sure we get full coverage. Not too much, nothing too crazy, but this paint was very thin, as most layers are. So we just want to make sure we do our best to really get it on there. And there we are. Looking for our next step here. I believe it's going to be our Magos Purple, Magos. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's fine. Nothing too crazy to worry about. Give it a nice little shake. And again, brand new paint pot. Sometimes they're kind of hard to open. You kind of don't want to take the entire top off, so you want to be a little bit careful about that. But we managed it just fine, so we're going to go ahead and clean our brush to the best of our ability. And this is a contrast paint, so I feel like we don't really want as much water as we usually do with our layers. And make sure we don't get too much of our brush. We're going to go ahead and paint. It kind of looks like the magazine of his little gun here. Perfect. And just some of the other little bits and bobs. I'm hoping when that dries, it won't be nearly as bad, because this is a very big brush for doing such small details. And we also want to get this side. Unfortunately, it's going to be much harder to reach. So excuse the awkward camera angles for a second. And then also, he has these kind of like open, I don't know what you call them, like muscles on his arms. So we want to get those as well. And just looking at the box here, I'm not really sure, like, I don't know. It's really weird. Just little like cracks and crevices in his armor, skin plating. I don't know what you call it. I don't know the physiology of the Termagants too well. I feel like we also want to do kind of the back of his head. That nice little like brainy section, it looks like. There we are. And I just realized the back of his legs also have a little bit of those open veins, muscle, whatever you want to call it, as well. So we'll do our best to kind of take care of that. And just kind of giving this one more once over. We'll do the exact same areas again as they start to dry, especially the back of his head. It's not really retaining it too well, but we'll try to fix that. Perfect. I might do a little bit of a cleanup. I'm not really sure, like, where. I don't know. There's like 4 different models on the box, right? and I can't tell which one this is meant to be, but like the legs are in different positions, so there's different like recesses in each of them. We're just doing the best we can. That's basically the long and short of it. But I am going to be going back in with our Wraithbone and just doing a little bit of cleanup work. And I managed to peek that paint pot. I told you I'm bad at it sometimes, but it's fine. We'll kind of roll with the punches here. Let's get a little bit of Wraithbone on our brush, and I want to go right back over everything we didn't properly fill in last time. Some of these scales, and we'll clean up a little bit with any spillage we did. Nothing too crazy. And then we want to go back over these arms. You can see I got a little bit of that purple down in some of these cracks and crevices. Go over those hands. Some of the primer I used actually didn't really want to stick to these models too well. So that is also something to worry about, just because there's so many recesses, and my primer was a little bit too thin, I feel. That's more my fault than anything. I was just trying to wash off this brush before I used it, and I didn't really let it dry fully before I tried applying anything, so that was my bad. Normally I know better, but not this time. And let's go back in to these little shoulder muscles, I guess you want to call them, and we'll clean those up as well. Got a big old streak of purple back here, good lord. And it's already looking way better, just with a little bit of cleanup work. The head I'm still not really sure about. I thought I was onto something with that brain back there, but maybe not. Maybe I'll fix that. That's alright. That's what learning is all about, you know, fixing your mistakes after you make them. And one thing we actually got out of that is that the little like holes on the side of his head did get filled in. So it wasn't a total waste. But we definitely could have been a little bit better about not messing up in the first place. It's okay. I'm not used to painting Termagants or Tyranids in general, so it's fine. Learning experience for both of us. Perfect. And the one last thing we want to do is just a tiny little bit of touch-up with that purple on that kind of top armor scale that I just went over. Oops, not the Megos purple, Nagaroth Knight. That is almost bad. And again, this will take us about half a second here. Maybe, if I can get it on my brush properly. And we just want to clean up that little spot right there. Perfect. Then do a little bit of touch up, just going all the way down. Just very quick, nothing too crazy. And I think we should be able to just about call it here. It's not bad for doing in one video. These guys are very quick to do, which is nice given that they're, you know, cannon fodder units for the most part. I might do a little bit of touch up, you know, once everything fully dries and I kind of take a closer look at everything. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with that, honestly. First time doing Tyranids. I'm going to clean up this side of the gun a little bit in the future, but for now, I think that's pretty much where I want to call it. As always, I do have a Patreon. If you guys want to support me there, it helps me kind of put out more videos more often. If you guys want to get this set for yourself, I found this directly on the Games Workshop website, but I know like my local game store has a ton of them, so always give them a quick little run-in. It's good to support your local businesses. It's how you get more stuff more often, right? Is supporting things that you like. As always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and only other thing I have to say is hopefully I will see you in the next video.